House Democrats are now asking one of President Trump's accountants for 10 years of financial records, according to a letter released today by the chair of the Oversight Committee. Their investigation is just one of many ongoing congressional efforts to dig into this president and his life. Robert Mueller's investigation is over, but investigating Trumpworld is still going on, all over the country. In New York, investigators are looking into the Trump Organization and its charity, how they get loans, made bids, and presented themselves to insurance companies. The attorneys general in Maryland and Washington, D.C. are accusing Trump, through his D.C. hotel, of accepting illegal gifts from foreign governments. New Jersey is looking at how Trump's golf clubs ended up hiring undocumented immigrants. Prosecutors in D.C. are looking into campaign advisor Roger Stone's connection with WikiLeaks. And the feds in New Jersey and D.C. have subpoenaed records from Trump's inaugural committee. But the biggest threats to this White House may be the federal prosecutors at the Southern District of New York. They're also looking into foreign donations to his inaugural committee, plus his super PAC, and whether Trump directed hush money payments to 2 women. And those are just the cases we know about. The SDNY was founded before the Supreme Court. Its 150 prosecutors are independent, aggressive, and not bound by the narrow scope that Mueller was. 2 SDNY prosecutors happen to have left the office recently, which means they're free to talk about what makes SDNY such a threat to Trump, even if the Mueller report isn't.
You've been married for how long?
How long are you married?
Let's see if we get this right.
12 years, right?
I'll go with 12.
Very legal.
12 years. 12 years.
Tell me about what it is like to work at a place with a reputation like the SDNY has, and why would somebody want to go work just at that district?
It's known as a very aggressive office. You know, in some districts you might have a more limited docket, but SDNY has everything from gangs cases to terrorism cases to securities fraud cases.
And the appeal is what? Just because that's the best?
The biggest, most high-profile, most important cases for the country that go on. There's Madoff, the counterterrorism cases, Osama bin Laden, the organized crime cases, the Genovese crime family. All those cases came from the Southern District of New York. So if you want to be doing big name cases with all that pressure, that's where you go.
Do the SDNY investigators care at all about the Mueller report? Are they looking at it? Are they focused on it? Does it matter to them?
I mean, they care, right?
Yeah.
So they care about the Mueller report. Obviously, they're going to read it, but their investigations are still separate and they're independent, and that's going to chug along whatever happens with the Mueller report.
But would the prosecutors in New York still get a chance to see or understand what Mueller has discovered, even if, Congress and the news doesn't see what's in that report?
If it's,
I think so, yeah.
If it's relevant to what they're investigating, if there's something relevant to what the Southern District of New York is doing, then absolutely, I think that they would see those portions that are relevant.
The Judiciary Committee will come to order.
Does having Congress get involved, does that change how things work in those investigations?
The main difference is Southern District of New York can charge somebody and send somebody to jail after a trial. Congress, they're going to send out subpoenas. They're going to try to get people to talk to them. But what can they do? Really, nothing. There's no real consequence necessarily to what they do.
Thank you for inviting me here today.
When Michael Cohen testified to Congress, do you think prosecutors are watching him on TV in Congress being like, oh man, can you just not, this is just not helpful to me at all? Or are they like, great, look at all this new great stuff that we got?
I mean, it's unusual that he's talking so much and continuing to cooperate.
My view is what he's trying to do is get a Rule 35. And what a Rule 35 is, I've been sentenced and I'm going to still try to cooperate. And then go back to the judge under Rule 35 and say, hey, judge, can you reduce my sentence? Because I've helped out some more. So I think that's his motivation.
Right, it's a resentencing.
It's a resentencing.
If someone came to you, you guys are still back at the office, they said, look, this inauguration thing, this is your thing. What do you start to do to build a case?
You're going to start with bank records. That's where all of these financial crimes cases start, or with the bank records.
And so in the practical sense, that means you subpoena the bank or
yes.
You subpoena the bank, you subpoena the inaugural committee to see who paid, you subpoena all the people who paid, and then you start hauling them in, getting their records, and then figuring it out. You're getting towards a charging decision when you have witnesses. I don't care what anyone says. You can't build a case just on documents. You're not going to trial just on documents, where you're just putting documents in front of a jury. So really what you want are people to explain the documents to you and explain the conversations around the documents and tell you what happened. Something like this, you'd want some strong witnesses on Team America before you charge.
Another one that comes up all the time as we talk about this stuff is Trump's former CFO, Alan Weisselberg. He did some plea deal with the Southern District. People who don't like the president were very excited. Oh, like this is the guy. And then we found out there was a limited plea deal and people were less excited. Help me understand the steps of what we know about that plea deal and what it might be.
Actually, what he got was immunity, which isn't even a plea deal. Frankly, from a defense attorney's perspective, it's the gold standard. If you get your client immunity, that means they go into the grand jury and whatever they say can't be used against them. He only had immunity to go into the grand jury to talk about specific things. So if there are other things that they're looking at that they didn't talk about, then he could be in jeopardy.
You know, the guy whose picture's hanging on your office wall, the president, is the guy that you're investigating. What is that like for people to be involved in something like that? It's not normal, right? It doesn't come up that much.
No, it's not normal.
Not normal.
But that's part of the thrill of the job, is that you are so independent that, right? I mean, it sounds cheesy, but nobody's above the law.
So, can Southern District of New York put the president in jail?
Well, I mean, everybody talks about the DOJ guidance and that you shouldn't indict a sitting president. So there is that guidance out there. Do they have to follow it? No. Would they be encouraged to follow it? Probably.
Could it happen in the future based on the investigations that are going on? Whether you have enough time on the statute of limitations, that's another question.
He could be charged just like any other citizen. Any other person could be charged.
And for things he had done while president?
Yes. As long as you have a crime within the statute of limitations, right? All crimes become time barred at some point, but as long as you're not time barred from bringing it, absolutely.
Do you have any feeling about where things are headed with this prosecution and what might happen next in it?
I think we're going to see some indictments, but that's really, that's about, I just exhausted my predictive knowledge.
And do you have any sense of whether or not this is the kind of case that keeps growing and growing, or one that looks like it's coming towards the end?
I think it continues on, that there are more leads has been reported every day, and those are leads that they're going to keep looking at. I don't see an end coming, because once you open an investigation and start down that path, you're compelled to, figure it out.